thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Last speech of today. So, Alpinebits. I don't know who of you know already Alpinebits. Alpinebits is, we have one. We have maybe more here. Anyways, Alpinebits is an alliance which was founded in 2013, so 12 years ago. And this mostly, it's an alliance of companies, private companies that said, okay, we have to do something to communicate with each other because the big fishes like Booking.com and others, they are eating the market. So we are struggling on communicating between each other, and we are reinventing the wheel on understanding who has which interface and how to exchange the data. So they basically said, okay, let's put some money on the table. Let's found an alliance for non-profit where we develop a common standard, an open standard to once and for all solve this problem of communicating from one company to another, or basically from one system to another. So now we have 25 companies willing to be involved in this project every year, and they basically send their developers to regular meetings to discuss on how technically they communicate as a client server to each other. So we talk about, in this speech, we talk about the hotel data. So this is mainly focused on tourism data, where prices and basically the booking information, when you book a hotel, a room, someone has exchanged this information. And Booking.com is one big example, but there are a lot of other portals, smaller ones, and where you can book your room. So the Alpinebits Alliance has a release cycle, or the standard. The Alpinebits Alliance releases the standard called hotel data, and they have a release cycle for of about 2 years. So they are discussing for 2 years, and every 2 years there's a kind of a snapshot where they say, okay, that's the new release, and everybody has to implement this one. So we do not go into the details of what is being exchanged and how it is being exchanged, but basically we talk about room availability, prices, booking and request of reservations, and so on. We know there are a lot of implementations out there. We do not have count of how many there are, so we know about 140 implementations out there, but we do not have track because it's an open standard. It's like you develop a software and you don't know how many people are downloading your software and using it, or your code. So that's basically the same thing. Here we talk about definition of how an interface is being implemented rather than providing code. So that's the main difference. That's an open standard, and so, but the rules are basically the same. So how does it work? Alpinebits is, we did not start from zero, so there are a lot of big systems out there, and transferring prices, or whether it is for airlines or railways or cruising ships. There are standards out there since a lot of years, so 20, 30 years, and they are based on kind of their old systems. So it's not bitwise like the big ones still today have. It's a bit a newer one, it's XML based, but still it's maybe not the most modern. But this, it's strange to see, but this sector doesn't move. There is a lot of inventions being made, but they are not so moving so fast to reinvent new interfaces. So interfaces being implemented once, they are up maybe 20 years. So maybe banks are a little bit slower, some of us know about, but this sector also has kind of old systems on how to communicate. As you as developers know, maybe there is better tools or better standards to communicate with. XML is a lot of parsing, you know. So, and if someone sends you something wrong, you have to do and to understand what they are sending. But anyways, the communication structure is this, that there is always a client and a server, and this client basically sends XML to the server with the information. The server has to parse it and then to return a success or an error or whatever to the client. But both of them have to parse the XML. So what do? At one point, we came to a conclusion. A lot of our member companies are struggling to verify, even though they are good in implementing their own stuff, they struggle to verify what the others said. So obviously, if you are doing a hotel system, so to manage your hotel, reservations and stuff, you know which room is free and the price of this room, and you send it to many portals, let's say 10 portals. Each of those portals, they have to get the same price. Otherwise, one portal would have more booking than the other, but the price should be always the same. So in that case, you have to assure as clients that the server gets always the same information, right? And in that case, you send the same message to all of those 10, and then suddenly you recognize one of those portals or 5 of them have a different price. So now you have to understand, it's my fault or it's their fault. Maybe they did something wrong, maybe they are not so experienced as you are or whatever, and you have to understand with them where the problem is. And you know better than me maybe that getting in touch with the other company, getting the other developer, convincing him that it's not your fault but his fault, it's a very time-consuming process, to say the least. So therefore, we as Alpinebits Alliance said, let's do a certification process to verify what someone implemented before he connects to the other one, so to assure that your customer, so in the end, the hotelier, is not the beta tester, but because in the end it is. So therefore, we invented this certification process where we said, okay, we have to guarantee something where we have an auditor which is verifying this implementation, exchanging a lot of messages to verify those errors in before. So the certification process is like you see here. So it's the idea would be to go away from this manual testing and say, okay, now I take 3 days for testing your interface. We have to do some kind of a self-assessment that everybody that arrives and wants to do a certification comes prepared, because as you know, if you give your documentation to someone and then you verify what they did, you never find a perfect product, a perfectly finished product. So it's the same as here. We see a lot of implementations, they are half-made, and there is maybe someone develops an interface example-based, so they start from the examples and say, oh, all my examples worked, but there is maybe no error handling, and that's a problem, and so on. So we said, okay, we have to do something as self-assessment before, then we have an audit, and then we can give a certification. Basically what we did is, again, here the manual audit, again, is time-consuming, especially to these feedback loops. So it's not to find the error, it's these feedback loops to get in touch. You see there's an error, you write an email to the developer, you don't get an answer for 2 weeks, and it's all very, very time-consuming. So this self-assessment resulted in a new tool where we said, we need to have a tool where those companies can register or not register, but enter this tool and give their endpoint, and this tool is sending information, so basic messages of this standard, how it's written in the documentation, to their implementation. And they immediately see it is green or it is red. So kind of very semaphore way to say, okay, are you passing the first step of this self-audition? Can you request a certification? Because for us, it's very also time-consuming to explain what they have to do before they even start. So this, in detail, it acts as a client and it verifies the server implementation. This is then who knows the Alpinebits standard, knows that the server is always the portal, which shows the prices on the websites. And it can test and detect automatically if this first handshake communication works. So one important thing in XML is also that the response is validated, so that the structure is kind of how it's defined, and you don't send elements that the other one doesn't understand. Anyways, it's an output, it's a result for developers where they can start to see, even if it's red and it's not passing, they see where to start to debug and to put their hands on. Everybody, everything the Alpinebits Alliance does is free and open source, so AGPL 3.0 license, and these tools are open source. The architecture is pretty simple. It's a Python standalone application talking through web services with a front end where we can have this output on a website. There's also a widget, so basically to lower the enter barrier, we implement this on our testing sites, and everybody can use them. Obviously, it's also possible to communicate with it with command line, so whoever prefers to directly embed it in their application, their interface, could do it so. And yeah, basically that's the way to communicate. How it looks like, the backend, the main features, they are exposing a HTTPS endpoint, obviously. It's an automatic XML validation. So everything, you can send it there and do a first test and say, okay, I don't understand how this works. Let's just send something there and I see the outcome. Because many times, many companies say, I don't give you the tool until you are finished. That's also a problem, because someone starting from scratch, also this position is not so easy, because they say, oh, I'm a new company, I want to start from scratch, I want to communicate with this big partner there, give me a backend at yours, and they say, no, finish everything first and then we communicate with you, and it's not so easy. So in that case, this tool also provides those action capabilities and those versions in the protocol and different functions that you can already start to test. And obviously you get some result then in detail. How it looks like then, this is, I don't know if it's big enough. This is kind of the output then we have on a widget base. This is then based on steps where you choose your version, your messages, you're able to communicate, fill in this basic information about the server, and then you have this process where everything is verified, and this is the last step where either something is failed or you see the final result. So basically that's it. Thank you very much. Also Marco, who is the main developer of this tool, and the Alpinebits Alliance to make this possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, for your presentation. There are still 2 minutes time for one question. If someone...
Do you also have tools to validate the client?
We have tools to validate the client, but it's a completely different approach. Because the client is, you verifying the client means you are on the receiving end. So the client has to send you the right things. Therefore, you have to start to configure the client. So let's make an example. A client would be a management software in a hotel. So to send you the right prices, you have to insert the rooms, how many rooms you have, how many persons can be in the room, what does the room cost for 2 persons, 3 persons, a child, a dog, and so on. So you have to insert all those rate plans, availability, all those things before by hand into the software. This software then connects to your validation server, and then you can see, okay, that's what I get. And then you have to ask, is this what you inserted? Is this what you mean by this price? So you do the calculation. So you have on one hand the price list, manual insertion, and then a tool on the receiving end. So there is no big logic on the receiving end. You're just composing what you get. So verifying the client, it's more effort to explain exactly what the person knowing his client has to configure rather to validate. You basically could also read the XML and more or less understand the same thing. So yeah, there are tools, but it's not, you can not automate it.